Well, welcome to Austin. I am excited to be here with you today to talk about our user theme, driving user value. That's our conference, user conference theme, driving user value. And I want to talk about that and how it relates to client happiness and return on investment. So I'm going to try to bring for you together some information that we've been looking at to understand what is return on investment and how can we make our clients happy with return on investment. So I want to talk to you a little bit today. We're going to start with an introduction to get into what we'll be talking about. I'm going to touch on our user conference theme, driving user value, and what that means to me and what it means in context of this presentation. I'm going to talk about the strategic goals that AgileAssets has laid out for this year and moving forward into the future. And I'm going to talk about return on investment and how that relates to our goals and how it relates to what we're trying to do with you, our client agencies. I'm going to discuss a new return on investment methodology that's just been published that we've been looking at. I've been working on for 20 years developing with ideas how to define return on investment. And I'm happy to say that there's a methodology that's just come out, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to show you some examples that come from that research, and then some research we've been doing to continue to measure and try to put a value on what it is, the benefits that we provide with our infrastructure asset management system. And then I have a call to action for each of our clients and agencies here, and for the folks back at your agencies that weren't able to make it here. So first of all, let's get into talking about what is AgileAssets all about. Our core purpose can be boiled down very simply to maximize infrastructure value and safety. And our vision is to apply that to our lives, to people's lives, and improve their lives through better, safer, more economical transportation systems. And we do that by providing the world's best and most widely used infrastructure asset management software, specifically transportation asset management software. So why do we have driving user value as our conference theme? What does that mean? Well, there's obviously software users. That's what we're here at a user conference. And so the first line are you, the software users. And there's a wide variety of users that can use this software, personas, as we look at it in the development. There's field personnel. They need easy, fast, mobile devices. There are engineers and analysts that need powerful systems that can look at lots of data and be able to do analyses. And then there are the agency decision makers that need to use it to get results and reports and see how best to spend the money that is entrusted to them. Then there is the highway agencies themselves, who you work for. They're also users. And it's important to know that the road owners, the agencies that have to maintain that, they have the responsibility to do that. And they're entrusted with public funding to do that. But as Joe mentioned before, the road users are really the key because they encompass all of the above. We're all road users. And that is what I'm going to spend a good bit of my time talking about today, the value that we bring to the road users. So everybody drives, and everybody knows that it costs you money to drive, to be on the road. So the real value is to the road users. The way to save vast amount of money is to help each of us save it individually as we use it. And how can we do that? We reduce users' costs And there's various ways to do that. Congestion, obviously, nobody likes congestion. So reducing congestion so that we spend less time on the roads has many benefits. Safety, obvious benefits if you don't have as many crashes. You save lives, property damage, medical bills. And then condition. When roads are in poor condition, it costs more to drive on them. It's rougher, it's more potholes, it's bigger, more wear and tear on your car. So user costs are there no matter how it costs us to drive. The worse the roads are, the more it costs us. And then there's all of the user value that we want to look at maximizing, the economic benefits that we can end up providing, the convenience, the necessities of life. And so when we were looking at our goals this year, we chose to think about how best to obtain that. And we thought back about our mission, our vision, our core purpose, and we wanted to say, how can we best achieve that with our 2018 goals? And how can we bring in all of the various potential user value? It is a multi-dimensional way that we can provide value. How do we begin to understand that? So this year we used a process called the 4 disciplines of execution. I think some of our state DOTs may have used this. It's from Franklin Covey, and it helps us to focus on the most important thing and do the things that can help drive our execution. And they explained it like this. If you have one goal, for example, putting a man on the moon, that John F. Kennedy, he set a goal for the United States and for NASA to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade and to return him home safely. So they had a goal that is from X to Y by a certain time. And NASA took that challenge on, and they figured out there were basically 3 things they really had to do, that they really had to work on in order to achieve that goal. And they said, well, first of all, we need propulsion. We have to be able to escape the Earth's atmosphere and propel ourselves all the way to the moon. We also need navigation. We need, because the Earth moves, the moon moves, and they're all rotating. And so how do we get to the moon once we are able to propel ourselves? And then we have to remember that we have to return the astronauts safely to Earth, so we need life support. So those 3 main areas is what NASA focused their attention on. And they did things, worked on things in those areas. The rest of it, once those were solved, the rest of it was no problem. And so for AgileAssets, we looked at what could be a wildly important goal for us this year that we need to strive for. And as we thought about it, really what we want to do is have client happiness. We want all of our clients to be happy, not just satisfied. We don't want to have just satisfied, dissatisfaction. Happiness, that is real happiness. And why do we want that? Well, happy clients use the software more, they get more value, and they tell other agencies who will then get more value out of the systems. So we looked, what is it we can do to help improve our clients' happiness? And we came up with 3 things as well. Our propulsion, we thought, was client engagement. We really need to have organized, methodical, systematic client engagement and repeat that as often as necessary to stay in touch with our clients. The second thing is software upgrades. We need to get all of our clients up to the newest software. We've spent a lot of money. We've invested a lot to improve the system, and we need you here. We need you all up on the new software. So we're going to work hard to do that. And then finally, we need to provide great service. How best to do that, but to ensure that our employees are happy, that they enjoy their jobs. Taking Southwest Airlines model. Happy employees provide great service. So the three lead measures, the things that we're going to work on, being engagement, getting the upgrades to you, because there's a lot of people that are on 4- or 5-year-old AgileAssets software. A lot has changed, a lot of improvements. And in terms of employee happiness, we believe that we have a great place to work. And we think that by providing great service to our clients, that gives fulfillment, providing the value. So those are the things that we are working on actively to meet our wildly important goal of client happiness. So client engagement, how are we doing that? Well, first of all, we've started doing what we're calling a strategic business review. And many of you have already started some of those, and we'd like to do those annually if possible. And those are very important. Then we're also going to continue engagement with a more tactical business review. And hopefully we can get to quarterly, where we visit with you on a more regular basis. We've had some discussions of resident consultants. Great program. We've got resident consultants in a number of our states, and those states are by far outperforming the ones that don't have resident consultants, just because they have someone always bringing help to get the software working, expanding the use of the software, and they have direct contact with us. And then the client success teams are the folks that deal on a daily basis to help get the software fixed, answer questions, help with the use of the software. So through these 4 areas, we're focusing on building client engagement. Now, in the strategic business reviews, we're going to sit down with you and look at a little longer-term plan. How can we move forward with you, our client agencies, to expand your use of asset management, to get more value out of the system? So the long-term plan is a critical thing. We also will address the risks that we have in failure, and we want to make sure to mitigate the risks, address those risks, and move forward with a plan that makes sense and minimizes risks and maximizes the chance for success. And then we're also going to begin to start talking to you about return on investment and ROI metrics of how valuable is your asset management program, your system, and your processes and your people. How valuable is it to your agency and to the public? Now, the tactical business reviews are going to be more regular touch points where we'll address the status of the projects or upgrades or whatever we have going on. We'll talk about operational issues. How can we make things better right now? What needs to be done? And we're going to focus in these tactical business reviews on getting the upgrades done. Where are we in starting a project, moving through, and completing, getting the upgrade to 7.3. The purpose of this is client success. And I want to reiterate one more time on the resident consultants. The value that they provide is huge. And I'm going to talk here a little bit about about value and costs. And I think that you'll understand that just using software a little better is going to bring great value to you. And the client success teams we have built up a lot of resources to help maintain and address our clients' concerns and our needs. Why upgrade? Why are we so enthused about getting everybody up to the new version? Well, we've spent about $10 million on improving the software in the last 4 years. We have spent a lot of effort focusing on quality and delivery. That is the build and release process, the quality testing, automated testing. And we're doing all of that in the preparation to move to SaaS. We are operating several of our clients in a software as a service hosted environments where upgrades are a non-issue. They're upgraded automatically and much more regularly. But the only way that you can realize the benefits that have resulted from that investment is to upgrade to at least 7.2 or higher. And 7.3 has just been released. So if you're looking at an upgrade, let's work on getting you to 7.3. Some of the fundamental improvements, it is fully based on ArcGIS server, and it has full integration with ArcGIS Online, so the mapping functionality is completely Esri-based now, and through the APIs, great transition to be able to see data, see asset management data in Esri products, and use Esri technology right within the AgileAssets system to see the map information. A lot of effort, a lot has been put on our build and release and sustaining engineering, all in looking at improving the quality of the software and how quickly and easily it can be delivered and put to use, get value going. And we spent a lot of effort on mobile apps because that is where a lot of the work is done. Most of our users are field users that are entering data in the field. So the mobile apps are extremely important. So if we can get the upgrades, we can begin to talk about what is the return on investment? How can we begin to see the value that we're bringing? And I have been thinking about this for many years. Obviously, it is a very important thing to be able to recognize the value proposition that we're bringing and to maximize that. And I've been on a TRB committee, the Transportation Research Board, Transportation Asset Management Committee. I was on it for about 9 years. And during that time, we talked about research that needed to be done to help quantify the value that asset management brings. We wrote research topics, submitted those, and a research project was actually undertaken based on those recommendations and just came out in 2018. It is called Return on Investment in Transportation Asset Management Systems and Practices. It provides the framework for a methodology to help understand and calculate what the value is. What is the return on investment? And it's a fairly straightforward. It looks at all of the costs that it takes to put a system in place and operate a system over time. And then it looks at the benefits in terms of how it improves the road, the benefits, and also benefits for the users. So the cost of putting in and operating a system weighed against the benefits. So what are some of the costs? Well, we all know that the cost of the personnel, that is some expense, and it has to be there. There is no choice for that. Data collection is one of the largest costs, one of the most expensive things that we have to pay for. And then there's the system cost, which in itself is not as much as the data collection in a lot of ways. This cost is relatively low. And then hardware costs. Again, all of these add up and they're real money. But when we look at the benefits and compare to the benefits, we can see that it's very expensive to make wrong decisions when you are spending hundreds of millions of dollars. And making right decisions can help you spend that money better, and that will provide value. You also get efficiencies by operating the software improves shorter time periods, things get done quicker, better information. One of the biggest values we get is asset value appreciation. We're able to see that the asset values are holding their value and improving the actual value of the assets. And then the road user cost reductions that having an asset management system in place can help is actually huge. That's really where the big benefit is, as I've said. So you get transportation agency savings, user savings, and general public savings in terms of reduced air pollution, reduced noise pollution when there are better roads. And a lot of qualitative benefits also that we've talked about. But this points out that having a good system is not the only thing that you need. If you don't have a sophisticated system, it's very difficult to get good value out of asset management. But if you're here, then you have AgileAssets system, you have a sophisticated system, so you're on the right side of this chart. And if you're using it well, we want to be up in the green. And that's where we're going to get the maximum value, using a sophisticated system well. This is an overview of how the return on investment calculation works in the NCHRP 866 report. It takes all of the agency benefits, user benefits, benefits to the general public. It takes the cost, the capital cost, and the recurring cost of operating your system, uses an appropriate discount rate to bring it back to current values, and then does the return on investment calculations. Now, how does it calculate user costs? That's an interesting thing that I want to talk about briefly, because there are user cost models in a number of ways, and what this is, it's an incidence-based model in 866, and what it's showing you that when your road is brand new, in the first year, it costs about $15,000 on one section. This is just an example of one section, $15,000 in incident costs, and that could be traffic accidents, stopped cars. There are various things that can be considered incidents, but as the road ages, by the time it's 25 years old, incidents will cost almost $70,000 on that particular section. So that is a function of condition, and this is an example of a condition curve, but it's showing you the user cost going up as the road is getting worse. And it looks at a lot of values. You can adjust the values. This is an example of the type of information, the percent of the ADT subject to the incidents, stoppage time, detour length, the cost per property damage of one event. So you can see they're very average numbers, and the things that come out in each individual section are based on the traffic and type of section that is there. Additional information, of course, are the value of time. How many fatalities or injuries? What is the value of the property that's being damaged? So those are inputs that go into this calculator. They also, in the NCHRP research, they looked at 3 case studies. And one of them was a Western state using pavement management system. One of them, and that pavement management system was not the AgileAssets system, but it does identify it is one of our competitors' systems. Then there is a case study of an eastern state bridge management system, and they are using the AgileAssets bridge management module, and a southern state maintenance LOS. And that example I'm not going to talk about. It wasn't as well developed as the other two, and they didn't actually calculate any statistics on that one. So let's take a look first at the Western State pavement management example. They show that Over about 25 years, they spent $23.2 million on their pavement management system. So that includes software, probably hardware, and for sure data collection and staff costs. So that's about $930,000 a year. The user benefits were calculated at $56 million, or $2.24 million per year, increasing the residual value. You can see by the numbers that you're getting a very good return on investment. 10 to 1 on a benefit cost ratio, and an internal rate of return of 41%. Now, the Eastern State bridge management example, they showed a software cost of $3 million, annualized at $120,000 per year. Now, I am pretty sure this does not include the data collection costs, so I think the costs are actually higher, but it does show a huge increase in residual value. But it shows a decrease in user benefits, the driver benefits. And probably the reason for that is because in undergoing the bridge work in the simulations, it slows down the drivers, causes more incidents. So that is part of the explanation for that. But when they did the calculations, it still showed a benefit cost ratio of 24 to 1 and an internal rate of return of 92%. So huge. And I want to talk a little bit about my experience in this and return on investment and why it interests me so much. Starts with my father, Dr. Ronald Hudson, who Joe mentioned earlier. He's sitting right down front here. He was a professor at the University of Texas and has worked in pavement management and asset management for many years, written several textbooks on the subject. And in fact, I was first subjected to this in Brazil. Back in 1975, I was in 10th grade, and my father went to head up a huge, for that time, a $15 million in 1975 dollars, $15 million study by the United Nations Development Program on vehicle operating costs in Brazil. So I lived there for a year while he set up this project, and it resulted in actually some very good work and reports that are still available today and models that are still available today. And then in 1998, I worked on a project with him for the Arizona DOT where we looked at the value of an early optimizing pavement management system that they put in the early 80s. And it showed, we did some calculations based on roughness. It showed huge return on investment, over 100 to 1. And unfortunately, the chief engineer at the time decided, well, that's great, but if we show that, I may lose funding. It's hard to believe, 100 to 1. So he didn't push that forward. But the fact is that those were fairly real numbers based on things that we've been seeing. And this is the books, these are the textbooks that are the most current, that have a lot of information about value and talks about some of the studies that I have just mentioned. So how does this apply to you and your agencies? How can we use the calculator that NCHRP has developed to help understand the value that you and your agencies are bringing? So we took that calculator and rebuilt it, basically, but using the methodology they lay out in that report and some of their models, some of their user cost models. Then we ran two examples. One, we used a prospective analysis, and if you read that report, that's a forward-looking analysis. So all of these use simulations, and in this case, we used the Pavement Analyst we did two different examples, and we ran different analysis scenarios. The base case was where we simulate how decisions would be made if you did not have the pavement management system. That is adjusting, basically saying that we will not do as much preservation work. We will do things the way we used to do it. 10 years ago, before we had a pavement management system, we would find the worst roads, we would spend money to fix the worst roads, and once our money was gone, that's all we could get done. So we set up the decision trees to simulate not having the type of analysis that we can bring today. In the investment case, we kept the same models that the state had in place. So all of the deterioration models, the improvement models, the budgets, we kept exactly the same. The only thing we changed were the decision trees to take out the very early preventative maintenance that was programmed in those decision trees and let the section drop on to a worse condition around 60, 65, and then do a rehabilitation. The other decision trees have normal preservation type of treatments included in them. So we look at the asset value as the benefits and the value of the extended asset life. And in terms of the costs, we did look at this increased incidence model that NCHRP put forth, but we also found a speed model that we used in Israel. It was actually in the code, had the model that shows as a function of roughness, as a function of pavement condition, that you are forced to drive slower as the road gets worse. And that is a value of time. So in terms of the agency benefits, we looked and measured those, and we can talk about those. Reducing the user costs. With the model that we're using, as roads get worse, more incidents occur. As roads get worse, reduced speed is enforced, and then you're going to lose time. Time is money. And then another model that we haven't actually employed yet is the model on vehicle wear and tear due to roughness. But that's for looking into the future. Now, this, if you'll see, look in the third column, fourth line down, you'll notice that this is not to be read by you folks, but this is an overview of what the calculator looks like. The outputs of our software when we run some simulations go into an Excel spreadsheet, and then these calculations are automatically made. And I'm going to show you a little bit about that. But first of all, I want to explain how this user cost speed model works, and I'm going to do it as easily and simply as I can. Again, we're looking at one section of roadway, and we're looking at 330 days per year that the person drives. And then AADT is average annual daily traffic. So then we look at how do you divide up the traffic into cars, trucks, and buses. So we look at the percent cars, and then the daily cost of driving the car and the car user's daily cost. What is the value of that time? And then the same for trucks and the same for buses, so that we encompass the entire traffic stream. So the model works like this. It costs money. You can see it costs $600,000 for people to drive on this road. Their time is worth $600,000 for them driving on this road when it's brand new. as the section deteriorates from 0, and you can see out at about 5 years, it starts to go up. So the cost, the road is now getting in a poorer condition, and the whole traffic stream is slowing down a little bit. So the people, it's costing them more to drive on it. So by the end of, once the section has deteriorated completely, shown in 18 years here, it would cost $1.45 million, a difference of $850,000. So it actually makes a lot of sense in terms of the amount of money. Now you can see how that cost model is shown in red, and the asset value depreciation is shown in the purple there. And then the user cost model at the bottom is the NCHRP incidence model. This shows how the performance was measured, was simulated in the runs for the base case, where we're assuming we didn't have a pavement management system, so we would be making decisions in an older way. This is the investment case in terms of the asset value stays up, the user cost stays down, and you'll see that we've done, part of the way, we've done some treatments, some preservation treatments to keep the road in good condition. So the performance rating for the preservation strategy looks more like this. So let's look at some examples of our actual customers here. So the first example is the same eastern state that was the subject of the bridge management example in the NCHRP report. So we ran this, and it came out showing the actual average RSL is 12.2 years. At the end of 10 year analysis, it's at 12.2 years. A single year optimization and a multi-year optimization were both used in our software, and they resulted in 14 years and 14.7 years. So I'll show you what this means in terms of value, but you can see what the percent good or better, the average performance, and the network value for each of these. So let's look in terms of the average network remaining service life. So today, when we start the analysis, it's at 14 years, and the red line shows assuming we're not doing the preservation treatments, we're only doing major rehabilitations when it's needed. The yellow line is running our standard single year optimization, the type of analysis that is most common in the industry today, although ours uses a true optimization. But when we go to a multi-year optimization, where it takes into account an entire life cycle, then that's the green line showed. So both the yellow line and the green line are outputs of two different methods of doing optimization within our software. And this one shows the percent good or better. And you can see at the beginning, when you're spending money on bad projects, they go up with the red line, but over time, you're not able to keep up, and it drops off. So by the end of 10 years, it's dropped down to 80%, where it started off at 92. For performance index, shows a similar phenomenon. Again, the green is significantly better in terms of 2.54 points on a 100-point performance scale. So what does that mean in terms of money? Well, $54 billion is the estimated value of this pavement network. And when we run the simulation, assuming we're not doing preservation, you get the red line. We have a loss of $4.1 billion in asset value over 10 years if we did not employ the asset management software. And then by using the best part of the optimization, using a multi-year optimization, the value is another $700 million at the end of 10 years by employing the treatments recommended from the multi-year optimization. So the discounted network value brings it back to today's dollars. So you see it's still 54.2 at the beginning, but in today's dollars, the future savings is 3.6 billion and 500 million in today's dollars. Huge amount of money. What are the user costs? Well, if we look at incident-based user costs, that's the NCHRP model on incidents, we can see that on average, $837 million of incident-based user costs is occurring on this network. At the end of 10 years, if we had not been using the management system, those user costs would be 130 million more, and even better, 31 million less if we use multi-year optimization. So again, we're saving our users a lot of money. Now, how about the speed model? This is in today's dollars, so $94 billion is the cost of people driving on the network. And when the network is in good condition, you see that drops. By using the green multi-year optimization, the user costs drop down over $1 billion. And you can see that it's a difference of 1.4 billion between no asset management system and using just a basic optimization. To further prove this out, we took one more client. We used a Southwestern state, also using the pavement management system. And we showed that it had very similar information, very similar, a little larger network, but very similar remaining service lives, percent good or better, average performance. Well, let's look at the graphs, and you can see that it started out with a 17-year remaining service life. And with the amount of budget we ran, it was not keeping up. The amount of budget was not keeping up. But if we had not used pavement management, we would get 1.6 years less remaining service life at the end of the 10 years. Percent good or better? Big change if we weren't using the asset management system. Average network performance, again, a big change. Now let's look at the value of the network. This network is a $94 billion value today. Without pavement management, 7.9 billion less value at the end of 10 years. And just by using the better analysis, you can get an additional $2.4 billion. Discounted back, that's 5.8 and 1.9 billion. Very significant in today's dollars. The user costs for the speed reduction, you can see $6.7 billion for users. That is the value to the people that drive on the roads after 10 years. Discounted to today's dollars, using the incident model, 280 million, plus another 110 million by using multi-year optimization. So the purpose of that example is to show you that we have now the ability to begin calculating using real models, published models that estimate the real costs, and so we can calculate the real value. So I want to begin working on a return of investment calculator with each and every one of your agencies. Pavement management, I just shown you two. It's already set up. We can work through those pretty quick and easily. I also want to build one out for bridge management. Maintenance has a great return on investment, and this one is the least well developed in the NCHRP report, but this one I also want to begin working on. And safety. We have several states using our safety analyst system, and I think we can show great value and return on investment with that module too. When you add them together, the value, it's going to be incredible. When you, like Charles was saying, Georgia has all of our modules. When they can do this with each module, the value that they'll be able to show to the legislatures, to the public, to their bosses, will show that they're doing a very, very good job. So, to land this plane, we've talked about driving user value. That's a critical idea for us. It's the name of our International Users Conference. We want to get you all to value, and we want to get there fast. We want to drive you there fast. We talked about wildly important goals and the 4DX process, and that our wildly important goal is client happiness, that we're going to engage with you more. We're going to get upgrades in your hands quicker as soon as we can, and we're going to provide you great service as part of that. We looked at return on investment, what it means, how to calculate it. We looked at several case studies and examples from your peer states, your peer agencies here that showed huge return on investment. So let's develop your ROI calculator together and get you to value fast. Thank you.